Questions?
Thanks everyone for being here. And hello Ames Pridefest 2020. Participants near and far. It's great to see people coming in and some familiar names and also some new names to our list. So welcome everyone. My name is Nikki Port. I serve the Ames Pride Board as Vice Chair, and this year I'm serving Pridefest as one of its co-chairs. But tonight I'm the guide for our discussion with Trinity Dearborn about the topic of independence. So before we go on, let's see how quickly I can do this. I want to switch to, there's some people you need to meet. Okay, so our Pridefest, before we bring on Trinity tonight, I wanted to do two things. One is to thank the Storytelling Project crew, who you may or may not be able to see on your screen right now. But this group works hard to produce this project, and the shape that it is taking deserves some big props. So I want to make sure that we give them their due. The other is to let you know some things about tonight. And I'll get back to this before we begin. So tonight there will be, I hate to call it adult language, I think is a misnomer. There's going to be some cursing probably during our conversation. We're also going to be talking about topics that are more adult than youth. And so we wanted you to know that so that you could opt out in case that kind of discussion is not for you. In order to have a great event, my role and the role of our Pridefest storytelling crew is to provide for the safety of our presenters. So they and you as the audience can have a good experience. So in doing that, we moderate our events. So we all want you to participate and be a part of it, but there's some things that we need from you in order to have a really great event. So number one, keep your cameras and mics off. I think we have those pretty well locked down unless we give you permission. So keep them off if you find that you have that control. The second thing is that when you contribute or ask questions in the chat and the Q&A, it needs to be in the spirit of the event. If our people behind the scenes see input from you that is trying to derail our conversation or isn't in the spirit of our event tonight, you can be moderated out of our discussion. And again, it's because the priority for tonight is to keep our presenters safe and to keep the audience in a place where they're having a good time and celebrating the awesomeness of our presenters. So, and also because we want a space where presenters can fully share with you in an environment that celebrates them. So if you're down with that purpose, so are we. We want to welcome you to this discussion with Trinity Dearborn. Okay, you will quickly understand, if you don't already get it from Trinity's picture, you will quickly understand why Trinity is one of my favorite people to be in conversation with. Here's the bio information that I think you need to know about Trinity before we jump in. So Trinity, period, they/them, period, 19, bachelor's degree, wants to be the queer cousin who sporadically gives hit or miss advice. And as for other biographical information they provided in their application, this is a direct quote. You can search my name on the ISU Daily's website. Trinity is very much a mainstay in Ames and an activist that I love talking to. And I'd like to welcome them now. Welcome, Trinity.
Hello. I thought you were about to roast my picture because you're like, you can see from the picture. I'm like, what? Are we about to fight, Nikki? What are you saying about my picture?
I didn't realize I was talking about your picture. I'm so sorry.
Wait, what are you about to say? Do we have beef I didn't know about?
No,
I'm also sending the link to my Google Docs that hopefully works for everyone. I wanted to make some supplemental presentation that was a little more fun because I know Zoom interviews can get really boring sometimes, especially like I'm in bed right now. Like this is how we're living. I recently moved to a new apartment and it's not set up. Furniture's, I just saw everyone pop up on the back. That was kind of cool. I like that they have little animals for the little anonymous people. Yeah, it's been a fun day. I'm Today's drink is sponsored by Bang Energy. Today we're drinking the peach mango one. It's pretty good. 0 carbs because I'm diabetic. My doctor would probably still yell at me because it's an energy drink. Fair warning, there is a 4th of July one that's red, white, and blue, and I didn't realize it, and it said like Star Blast or something. I'm like, oh, Star Fruit. And then I bought it and looked at it. I'm like, this is supposed to be patriotic, huh?
Less helpful marketing for sure. So Trinity, thanks for sharing that that link in the chat. So everyone, we in the chat, Trinity put together a presentation of slides, and just reading through it has been great for me. We might access it if Trinity says, "Hey Nikki, can you just pull up that slide?" We might do that. Want people to be able to do other things while we're talking, right? Is there anything? Okay. And then Trinity, we just went through all these rules, right? And moderation, keeping the place safe and all that. Since I've already gone there, are there any specific thoughts that you want to add about interaction with the audience tonight?
I think just being respectful, just if people are going to bounce off of other ideas, just maintaining that, like, use people's names or if they have their pronouns, and just trying to make sure that we're respectful of everyone. Because I want this to be more of a dialogue, which I understand is much harder on Zoom than, say, in person, but that is like what I'm trying to do, because I think dialogue is the most productive and also the most fun way.
Yeah.
Also,
And
I love talking about myself.
yeah, and one of the things that even in like an interview situation, when we were talking about setting this up, Trinity is very much the person who likes to bounce things off of, bounce back and forth between ideas. So please, please, audience, use the chat. Choose all panelists and attendees. We're cool with you asking questions that everybody else sees too. If you want, the Q&A section is more private, where only the storytelling project crew will see those, and then they'll alert us to questions that we might want to answer. But the chat is where, I don't know, I love the chat. So yeah.
Hi. We can talk about my outfit. We can literally talk about anything. Like, my presentation is literally, let's be friends. And that's it. That's all I got.
So Trinity, let's start out. So something you've said before and you put in your documents for tonight was that representation, and this is representation, visibility, and diversity are so incredibly important to me, and I hope to center my life around those themes.
Mm-hmm.
Expand on that by way of introduction to our audience. Like, tell us a little bit about the identities that you really try to make visible, and just introduce yourself to us.
Yeah, totally. So I would say my strongest one is Cutie Pox, so queer and trans person of color, and that's like the main label that I've been trying to push. I was originally going to make a slide in my presentation, just like listing out all of my identities, but it just felt too like bulky and awkward. Like, I'd rather, like, listing it in person, I feel like is much different than just, here's a dictionary explanation, go Google them, which I understand can be helpful, but I'd rather have that like on a one-on-one basis. I usually go with the cutie pock, and if someone's just looking for a general term, I'll say queer just because it's so encompassing. But if anyone is uncomfortable with that term, please let me know in the chat or the Q&A, and I can try and stay away from it, because I do understand that it can be a hard-hitting word, and it varies on the reclaiming and the comfortability. Then agender, which is my gender identity. Agender since 12. It'll be when I hit 25, I'll have used it for the majority of my life, which is something really weird to think about. I wish I have a giant agender flag, and like, if I knew where any of my decorations were right now, they'd be up on my wall. But the flag is super cute, and I just really think gender's a lie and like a bunch of bullshit. And so I was like, peace out, gender, even though I can't really opt out of it. Then I'll do like a demisexual, that I don't really have romantic attraction unless I have, sexual attraction unless I have romantic attraction, which ACUBE, the Asexual Aromantic Alliance on campus, really like helped me work through that, and also gave me a super safe space for my gender identity. And like triple ace folks are super cool. So that was wild to learn about. And then being androromantic, like romantically attracted to masculinity, and like, does that make me straight? But how can you be straight if you're not cis? And all these questions. I'm like, am I queer enough? Which is whole nother thing to learn about. Like, no, there's no such thing as not being queer enough. Like, that's for you to decide. So that was really cool to have a label for that and to like recognize it. And then we can also get into gender expression, which I guess it's like the more comfortable I got with my gender identity, the more comfortable I got with my gender expression, which is super awesome. That I'm like, I used to hate floral. Like, you can talk to my dad. Anytime I get anything floral, he's like, you used to hate floral. And I was like, Dad, I was 12. Like, we've moved on. Catch up. I feel like I'm always forgetting someone. Oh, and then like sometimes I'll say I'm pan, but that's just because people don't understand pocket labels and it's just easier. I personally don't use the word bi just because like linguistically it still bothers me a little. But bisexuals are totally valid and everyone's definitions are absolutely valid as well. Like, identity is such an individualistic thing, which is why I love talking about it, because you could have two people with the same label with completely different identities. And I think that's really awesome.
Oh, that's great. I really appreciate that. And so I feel like if we're going to have a truly authentic space here, right, and have some conversation, that it's important for people to know where you're coming from. And I know you'll keep bringing things up as we chat. So why don't we start with the question everybody probably knows I'm going to ask. So July's theme is independence. And when the Storytelling Project came up with the idea of independence, we did it because we just thought it would be fun to kind of flip that idea of independence during the month of July and talk to some pretty interesting people about it. So why don't you tell us what does independence mean to you?
Yeah, I'd love to. I remember when we first talked about this, how we thought about like, I was like, oh, people are gonna think this is gonna be some like patriotic shit. Like, we're gonna be like hyping up red, white, and blue, baby. And I was like, that's not what this is. Like, how do I make that happen in the bio to be like, this is not what I want. This is not what I'm repping today. Like, we have the right to critique our country. And that's what, like, hell yeah. So I'm definitely not going to be talking about independence on a country level. I see independence very much as like a coming of age or like coming to identity form of like, once you know who you are able to develop that independence into who you want to be as a person. And I also want to get rid of the notion that independence means that you're alone, because to have true independence, healthy independence for yourself as well, does require a support system. Like, everyone needs a support system. But I feel like I need to get my hands in here. Am I gesticulating? Okay, there we go. And so like, independence to me is very much like, am I happy with who I am? Who am I going to be? And what am I going to do to get there? Mm-hmm. So I see independence relating directly to my goal of wanting to be a better person every day. And I feel like that's an interesting take on independence, because usually when we talk about independence, like, I can do this by myself. I don't need anyone else in my life. And I'm like, okay, go you. I support you, but also, where's your support system? And sometimes your support system is like, you know, the chicken taquitos in the fridge and your cat.
I love it.
I might be craving them that are in my freezer right now.
Okay, you can't leave though, because we don't want you.
I did think about it. I'm like, I'm gonna have to pee in the middle of this, aren't I? And that was a real fear I had. So that's how we're living right now, on the edge of fear.
Nice. So I love. So I'm gonna stick with the order that I thought I would have, because I kind of wanted to jump on, but I want to kind of bridge this. So, are there specific milestones in your journey to, from, within, away from your independence that you would like to share? Because you haven't quite mentioned how incredible your journey was, even to get to the first day of college. Like
yeah. See, that's why in my presentation I listed some things like, why am I impressive on paper? Because in my head, I always have this really big thing of how other people see me, where they read about me on paper and then they accept me to college, or they accept me to the scholarship, or yada, yada. And then they meet me in person and they're like, hold up, who is this? Yeah. So yeah, I would say
that's one of the first things I thought when I met you.
Who is this? Yeah. Yeah, I see some people talking about their support systems in the chat. That's super awesome. I think it's really cool to like relate who they are and like recognize them. Ooh, side note, something I think about is like, there's this thing where it's like, write the big, like, top 4 people you care about or your top 4 support system on a list. Like, I want everyone to think about who those 4 people are, right? Not a lot of people will think of themselves on that list. And like, I think that's really revolutionary. It's like, no, put yourself on the list. You need to be your number 1 fan. College.
Or not college, but just, like, talk
Before
to
college.
big things that
Yeah.
really
The number 1 that I usually hit is like, I graduated high school at 15. I went to Boone High School. I just forgot the name of my high school for a second. Whoa, wowie. Boone High School is about a town of 12,000. A lot of people hate Boone. People that in Boone hate Boone. I hated Boone. There were some really wonderful teachers and staff that I loved there. Like, I played Dungeons and Dragons with a couple professors and like students there, and that was amazing and something I want to get back into. And like, there were a lot of college courses. I took 24 college courses in the 2 years that I was there. I did not technically skip any grades, by the way. Everyone always thinks that. No, I just took a bunch of credits and ate lunch in my aerospace engineering class, which sounds really bougie, but really it just means that a bunch of white men made fun of me and I'd cry to get them in trouble. That was the best. I feel like I need to relearn how to cry on demand. It's very helpful because it's a very like passive aggressive tactic where it's like, I'm not going to start a fight, but I will end a fight with these tears. I just feel like it's a very good way, instead of actually fighting someone, just tears. But then you have to have like a higher person in authority, and that's like a whole nother problem, is authority. I got accepted to Iowa State when I was 14 from my ACT score in 7th grade, which was a whole nother thing because like in the talented gifted program I was in, they paid for you to take the ACT. So I did take it because it was free, and it's like, sure, why not? And then I retook it for the scholarships, and then retook it again with the juniors because my high school paid for it. I didn't score as well as I wanted, and I blame it on my math teacher because my score didn't go up and he like ruined math for me. So glad he'll never watch this. And so like, I enjoyed parts of school, and that's why I wanted to go to college. It's like, I enjoyed learning, and I thought
be distracted.
Yeah, I got distracted by, I'm not going to start a fight, but I'll end a fight, might be the best quotation in a while from Kimberly. And I thought college would be the opportunity to keep learning, which in some ways I was right, but I definitely took more from college from the non-academic parts than I ever took from the academic parts. Like, my advocacy and my community became so much more important than my actual grades. And yes, I still graduated with highest academic honors and like all these stoles and everything, but like at the end of the day, that's like last semester with COVID going on, I only had a 4.0 because I only took 1 grade. The rest were pass, not pass. It's like, well, I just will boost my GPA while I'm here. And so transitioning to college was really hard for me because at that point I was like, I was this A+ student, never been truly challenged in the classroom, had really high standards, and I was in design my first semester, and I lost that 4.0 my first semester, which I'm glad it happened at that time because like I allowed myself to cry and grieve over no longer having that, but it also made my life so much easier to not have such high standards. Like, I was doing my best, and my best doesn't mean I had to keep a 4.0. And that's something I really had to learn, is like, as long as I'm doing my best, that's okay. And sometimes my best is skipping class and taking a nap and treating myself to some ice cream, to take care of yourself, because your mental health should come before everything. And that was part of my independence, is like detaching myself from all of these academic rules and expectations. Like, even a year ago, if you told me I would have graduated and not gone to grad school, I would have called you a liar. I would have been like, no, PhD before 25, bitch. I don't want to go back to school. I'm done. I'm outie. I'm peacing out. Like, maybe in the future, but right now I'm like, what's a degree in our current academic system going to teach me that I don't already know or can learn for free? Like, I don't want to go into academics, and that's okay.
I hope you don't mind that I've been screen sharing some
Yeah,
slides.
no problem.
Because I think that I'm trying to find the slides that match with what you're talking about.
Oh yeah, P.S. for people looking at the presentation, I did write some funny things in the speaker's notes because I'd run out of room and I thought I was cute in the speaker's notes.
Nice. Okay, so I love your concept of independence doesn't mean being independent doesn't mean you have to be alone.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering, I would, and I know you've already touched on it. I know you've already talked about it, but I know you can say so much more about it because most people think about the term when they think about finding their community or being in community, it's more of a depending on your community. And so the idea of independence and community can sometimes conflate themselves in people's minds. So I would like you to talk a little bit about that some more, if you don't mind.
About like with the community I've connected with?
Well, and the whole, this idea of not being independent, being
Yeah.
independent, or feeling independence doesn't mean, yeah.
I think the biggest transition for me was when I went to college. And it wasn't even like an age thing. Honestly, my age in college was one of like least significant things that happened while I was at college. The only thing meant that my dad had to sign stuff for me and he worked on campus at the time. So I would just like roll up or, you know, fake his signature and be like, here you go. So I remember, I'm sure many of y'all know Brad at the center, the director of the center. And I remember in Apex Academic Program for Excellence, it was a summer scholarship program that I was in, 15 turning 16. Honestly, amazing. Team Brad forever, yes. And they came and did a presentation about like the center, and it was the first time I had seen someone use they them pronouns like in real life, and especially coming from like a position of power. Like before then I'd only seen it on like Tumblr because that's how I found out about my identities, and that was really only the queer interactions I had besides like my gay best friend at the time, and she was really cool, and you know, gay people attract other gay people and you find out that y'all are queer like 5 years later. And I like remember straight up like wanting to cry during that presentation. I was just like so shook. And I'm pretty sure I was like having a bad day. It had been a long week. And I was just like, this is so amazing. Like, oh my God. Especially as someone like, I never wanted to go to Iowa State. My dad was like, you're either graduating early and going to Iowa State or you're not doing. I'm like, fuck you, Dad. And I'm like, I guess I'll go to Iowa State. And then they gave me a bunch of money. I'm like, well, I guess I'm stuck here now. And so I didn't even know any of the shit existed because I didn't want to be here. I didn't look into any of my resources, which is like, even if you don't want to go someplace, you should look up the resources because that changed my entire future. Iowa State was finding the center, finding Spectrum, finding the Pride Alliance, and all of these wonderful queer mentors and friends that really like shaped who I am as a person and my experience and made me feel so welcome. Like during Apex, I was help planning the welcoming event at the center. And that was before I'd even started my like official like freshman year or whatever. And to just have those interactions that set me up to later be the president of many of those orgs. It was just so natural at the time, but looking back, I'm like, wow, this could have gone in a radically different direction if I hadn't met these amazing people along the way that like really, words are hard. I would probably still be a design major if I hadn't met these amazing people. Like I wanted to be an illustrator at the time or concept artist. And within my first semester, Ricardo Martinez is another wonderful mentor in the Apex program that really made me realize, yo, I can do more. Like I can do advocacy. I can get a degree in advocacy. And I fell in love with the Women and Gender Studies program. And like the amazing faculty like Dr. Mukherjee is here. You should take her classes. And it was just so like it makes me so shook to think about how different my life could be right now as if I didn't change majors, I didn't do the scholarship program, I didn't meet like all these wonderful people. And like that spooks me because I like who I am now. I enjoy the experiences I've had. I'm like, wow. Mm-hmm. Like my best friends right now are from people I lived with in Spectrum, like the gender inclusive LGBTQI plus theme house. Like trauma brings people together. We got treated really dirty by the Department of Residence in Iowa State, and then we like trauma bonded, and now they're the most amazing people in my life.
Yeah, this. So I know you're monitoring the chat. So I wanted to just take a break so we can look at the chat and see if there's anything that you want to respond to. Mm-hmm. And that is totally up to you. I'm just going to see what. Back and forth is awesome. Thank you, audience.
I know, I love interaction. I also just hear people shouting outside. I'm like, hello?
Okay, great. So Trinity. So Ames Pridefest finds, every year, we find huge involvement from queer and trans youth. You know, maybe the first place where they ever felt comfortable to put their pride flag on as a cape, and walk around with 1,000 other people. I mean, it's something that we as planners just love. We love it. And youth, you know, ranges from the toddler, you know, the baby in the stroller to the toddler who's just learning how to walk through the festival, and all the way up through middle school and high school. So when you offered to speak with us tonight, I thought, oh, Trinity is the person that queer and trans youth should hear from. So not to put too much pressure on you, but I know you can take it. What advice and tips do you have for those in our audience who are either by age youth? Well, yeah, let's just start with that. By age.
Okay, the younger folks.
Yeah.
Add me on social media, step one. Because when I think of like baby Trinity, like a 12-year-old Trinity, and just like what I like, so much of my mission and my goals nowadays reverts back to like what a baby Trinity needed at the time. And for me, that started with like Logan. It's in my presentation if you look at it. So Logan and I are friends IRL, okay? Sass is not a random person. And so I think about like what would a baby Trinity needed, and for me that was diversity and representation and visibility, because I still don't see someone like me in the media, and I do understand that's even harder for other folks like Black, Brown, Indigenous, POC, like their pickings are even smaller, and so I just wanted to become that representation and visibility. And so I think the first one is finding people like that resonate with you, because if you don't see someone in the public eye that looks like you, it's really easy to be like, well, I don't matter. And I think that's like a really shitty feeling and can be very isolating. And then my second one, besides just the big picture, also I don't believe in role models. A side note. So like just people that like are chill, that kind of like feel like you is good. Social media is so big now. It's so easy to find like even the smaller accounts that aren't like super famous but still resonate. Like that's important to have and to build that community. Find people in your local area. Find those like group chats. My brain almost just said Kik groups. I don't think Kik is a thing anymore. Do people still use Kik?
Trinity, who are you asking? You're
audience, I guess. People my age. I don't, what are Snapchat? I don't know. I feel so old now. I met my friends like face to face. KIK was like the big thing when I was like middle school, and I just remember all the random group chats people would throw me into. And then I thought like Tumblr group chats. I'm like, that's not where it's popping either. I really don't know where the group chats be popping. I'm so sorry. I'll have to look into that. And so to find your local communities, like in Ames, there's trans and non-binary Ames. I had to think so hard about the name, my brain just like short-circuited. And like at Iowa State, there's a bunch of groups, and many of them on Iowa State campus are open to community members as well, not just Iowa State students. Like the Pride Alliance and the Asexual Aromantic Alliance are open to community members as well, for Ames folks, which I think should be like put out there more, because it's not just for students, and it's really awesome to have interactions with the community. The library puts on a lot of events. Ames Pride, of course, puts on stuff. Hopefully things get more in person soon. But like even this is great. Like you can build community here. Like for example, if this was an in-person event, I would have like a whiteboard and be like, share your social media if you want to like add people here. So maybe we can do that at the end. Because I already promoted myself multiple times, but like the audience should be able to promote themselves too. Everyone can promo.
And also, so Trinity, you know, a lot of there are attempts at organizations in our schools, in the Ames school system, and in a lot of school systems around that. But you're right, like Ames Pride, we understand as an organization that sometimes school is not a place where you want to find your community.
Yeah, that's real.
And so that's why I feel like it's one of the benefits that since Ames Pride has thought about, we want to do things that are family friendly in the most expansive definition of family, like not just so I hope that young people can look to us, even though, because we have youth serving members on our board, we are thinking about youth, we have people who work with youth on our board. So like I'm hoping Ames Pride can be a hub for people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're trying to do with this programming too, is that you don't have to come to Ames Pride to meet somebody like Trinity. You just watch this webinar and then you connect with Trinity on your own.
If you're ever in Des Moines, I'm always online. I'm supposed to have 1 gigabyte internet soon. We'll see if that's a lie. And, you know, we can socially distance. Let's meet at a park. You got a dog? I would die to meet someone's dog. I have a cat. I'll probably bring her in later. But, like, pets? Anyone got pets in the chat? There's a montage of my cat near the end of the presentation. I was gonna put more cat pictures, but it was taking a lot of time to upload all these pictures with my like crappy hotspot on my phone. Oh, and something that you said, Nikki, is fictional lobsters do count, Brad. I will eventually get you a real lobster. What's the rules in the center? Can we get you an emotional support lobster?
Oh boy.
Can you take that into the center? So off topic, but now I just want to get you a lobster.
I want to get here. Hold on.
I have a lot of slides.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I only like 21. I told you I was going to do 200. That was my original goal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This is my cat. She's like 10 years old now. She's very cranky. I'm the only person she bites. I recently dropped way too much money on her. And she doesn't even like some of the stuff I bought her. I bought her these fancy treats. Hates them. You know what she does like? Licking the condensation off of bottles. But I can't really get her a toy that does that. Something that you mentioned earlier, Nikki, that brought me all the way back here is like finding mentors. I think that's another great thing. Find people with experience that you don't have and like have conversations and have conversations with people that don't have the same identities as you. Like that's another issue. I feel like oftentimes the queer community can be almost too independent where we're not communicating with each other and they're like, well, like, let's say my identities are only based in gender. I don't need to know about like identities that are sexuality based. And it's like, no, you should learn as much as you can. And you should want to learn as much as you can and have an understanding because then we can relate. And there's so many intersections between identities and like the overall experience. And like everyone has different stories and different journeys. And like, that's so amazing to me. Like, I just want to know everyone's story. But you can only trauma bond with people you meet after 5 minutes so hard before they get freaked out.
True.
You gotta build up to there.
So also Trinity, in our participant list, we've got plenty of parents, family members, other support systems of queer and trans youth. When you have an audience with those people right now about how they can help foster independence in those people that are in their lives. Do you have any advice for those support systems?
Yeah, in my head, okay, there's multiple levels of the support systems. I'm gonna group them. If y'all have any questions about like specific groups, because obviously this isn't all encompassing and I have experience with a lot of different people at different levels of education. So for example, the only person in my family that I really would consider right now is my dad, who's in the living room right now. And he's just like, does he really understand things? No. Is he trying his best and like will support me and love me and is trying his best? Yes. And like, I appreciate that of him. He's just like a 6-year-old man who's like, I don't really care to understand things. He would probably tell you there are 3 genders if you asked male, female, and neither. But like, he's getting there. And so he has his best intentions. He's gotten pretty good at using my pronouns, which I appreciate, and he's actually making an effort. And I think that's what really matters is like impact. impact, intention, and effort. Like those are 3 things that can be grouped in. And then I think about like the really close, wonderful friends people have. So like that close group of friends, which I would say get the most pressure from people just because they're like, you care about me the most, I care about you the most, I'm around you the most. So like y'all are the ones that got to get it together. Like you better be on your shit with my pronouns. You better on there with like understanding and learning with me. Like we're learning as a group. Like y'all are going to make me learn and I'm going to make you learn. And then the 3rd level I see is like coworkers, acquaintances. So like that in between, and which can vary because like for me, I have to come out in every single space I enter in order to feel comfortable because of my pronouns, which is a big reason why my gender identity is the most salient, because unlike my racial identity, I don't have to tell you all my racial identity. I can just let that go. It can be, I'm not white, by the way. I don't know what has been up with a lot of people thinking I'm white lately on my Snapchat stories, but it's been like really bothering me. I just heard my dad in the bathroom. My racial identities, I usually identify as like mixed or multicultural. I don't really like the label Asian American for a plethora of reasons, but it's just kind of a weird label to me, and also how people use it. So I'm half Chinese and half white, but I really relate to mixed and multicultural the most, especially because I was raised by the white side of my family for the majority of my life. So I don't have a lot of cultural connections. And so with like acquaintances, it's very much like comfort level and situational. So it's like family, you got to decide because it is up to your comfort level. With friends, I would say those are the ones that hold the most responsibility because you expect the most of them, especially if they're younger folks. And then like acquaintances, it's very much by situation. So my advice would be, I would start with explain, like, here's the Venn diagram. So with friends, I would say go all in, because if they're not going to support you at your fullest, you shouldn't want them in your lives. Yes, Asian American is so ambiguous. Like, linguistics, mind blowing. And so with like friends, I would go all in. Like these should be the people that will support you no matter what, like friendship. And then family is where you have to decide, like, what do you want your boundaries to be? How much are you willing to sacrifice, unfortunately? Because oftentimes a lot of people in family aren't educated about queer identities. And like, how much are you willing to educate and to learn? Like, what is your range, I guess? And that's just being realistic for a lot of folks. And then for acquaintances and like co-workers, it's kind of just a smaller level of family because you got to decide your comfort level. But also at the end of the day, you don't have to talk to these people. These people probably don't have to stay in your life. We just got a really long message.
Yeah, so there is a question embedded in that chat that just came up. For those of you who need us to repeat the question from the chat, it's skeptical to hear about Ames, Iowa as a space where queer visibility and audibility is on the rise. It was me, I was the skeptic.
Okay, relatable. Like, if you told me there were queer people in Ames, Iowa, I was just in Boone, Iowa. I wasn't even 30 minutes away. And I was like, I don't trust it. And then I came here and I'm like, wow, there's actually like cool people here.
Thanks for that intro, Rita. That's great.
I love Rita.
Great.
Yeah, I remember being like, wow, Iowa State really out here. And I don't want to not throw in any shade and not dissing anyone. I want to make that clear right now. But something I worry about is like making spaces available to everyone, because like until I went to Cutie Pock Dinners, which was this awesome program set up by, I don't want to butcher their names. I'm just going to say students. Y'all can look it up, please. Who set up these awesome dinners once a month. And all these Cutie Pock came out of the woodwork. I'm like, who are you people? I've never seen you in my life. And like, as Cutie Pock, I was like, hey, hi, but also where you been? Like, let's be friends. And then that was like the only space I saw, and it made me really sad. But I can really understand that because, like, for the Pride Alliance, for an example, has been predominantly stereotypically white dominated space. And like, as president, I wanted to change that. But of course, there's only like at the height 2 POC on cabinet. Thank you, Nikki.
Yeah.
And so like, even then, you're right. Iowa State is a predominantly white institution, so most of our events are predominantly white. And so it's like, how do we balance making a space for cutie POC while also not making it exclusively cutie POC? Because of course there should be exclusive cutie POC spaces, and that's why I was so hyped for the dinners, and it was amazing. But to also create space for them in other places. So there's definitely a balance, and unfortunately I don't think Iowa State is there yet. So I'm hoping that's something that changes with the future, and that's why I'm excited to still have my connections to Iowa State to see how that goes. Wow, I could just show up on campus next year. See, if COVID-19 wasn't happening, I would just be popping in people's classes. I'd be like, hello, I am here now.
Well,
Let me take your class.
You always have room in my office.
You just put me on, I just put a video chat into your office.
Yeah, that's great. The interaction on the chat has been great. If we missed a question that anybody threw into the chat instead of the Q&A, feel free to repost that for Trinity, because this is my last structured. Well, actually, there's two. The very last question is going to be, how do people get in touch with you? Okay, Trinity. So that's the very last question. But the question that I always like to ask is, did you think I was going to ask you something, or did we talk about something that we were going to discuss in this venue that I haven't brought up yet? And if so, what is it?
I don't think so. The only things I really remember is to be like, what does independence mean to me? And then I want it to be very dialogue based, which I feel like we've done a pretty good job at, and I love interacting with other people. So I feel like this has been fun. Did not realize how much time has already gone by, which makes me kind of sad. I'm like, wow, I need to do this on the regular. We'll just have a giant group chat.
Right.
I would make that.
And Trinity, if that's something that you're interested in, Ames Pridefest can make a space again for people. We're going to have my co-chair, Norman, they came up with an idea of just having open hours. So this might need to happen again. We might need to have an open hour with you later in the year before.
Also, like Ames Pride, like open mic.
Whoa, that's a production. That's awesome.
Right?
Like office hours. I don't.
Oh, okay, that would be cool. Like, I want that.
Okay, cool. So even though our time is, so anyway, but back to like, what else do you want to talk about? Like, this is
I mean, like, do audience members have questions? You got questions about my presentation? I thought I was pretty fun. Okay, so I might have broke my foot.
What?
So I've been really sleepy, and I think it's just like, thank you, Logan. I think my body is just like recovering. So story time. It was my birthday a few days ago. I'm 19 now, which is very spooky. It's weird being an adult and not 18. I'm not ready to have my last teenage year. Like, my 20th birthday is gonna be an existential crisis. So my friends and I, Seraph included, I don't know if you want to jump in, Seraph, but we wanted to go to the pool because my hotel, my apartment has a pool. This place is too bougie for me, Nikki. And it said it closed at 9, so it's like 8:50, right? And it's like, all right, we got 10 minutes, whatever. So we go over there, and I like try to go in, and it's padlocked, and it says pool temporary closed at 8. And we're like, first of all, in my building, it says 9 p.m. So we decided to jump the fence, because that's what you do when you want to go swimming on your birthday. I was wearing a tiara. I was looking good. I have one good picture from the pool. And so we jumped the fence, right? And I just land horribly on my feet. Like, I didn't even land that badly at the time. I just like hurt my feet. So side note to the side note to the side note, I was recently diagnosed with diabetes. So I've lost a ton of weight from my medication and just my lifestyle changes. And so just the composition of my body is different. Like swimming, I was like, this feels weird to just float. Who knew? So now my foot's really bruised, and I can walk on it and move my toes, but like the bruise has spread to like the entire of my foot. And I posted on my story, and multiple people are like, "Is your foot broken?" I'm like, I don't know, maybe. I have insurance now, so I guess I'll find out eventually if it's a problem.
I have no response.
I just remembered where I was originally going with this. So this presentation was supposed to be a lot longer with a bunch more random shit, but I've literally been sleeping for like 20 hours a day. Like straight up 20 hours a day. I'm like, wow, I'm out here.
Well, Trinity, I pulled up I'm sharing your research screen right now. And again, everybody, that is at the way top of the chat. And maybe if one of our production crew, if you can repost Trinity's, oh, never mind, it's done. It's done. Trinity is DJing this whole.
I'm prepared.
You gotta give the production crew something.
Oh yeah, my quote, here's the quote. This is what I want y'all to take away. Never ready, always prepared.
Yes. That's your takeaway from the foot thing, or from the making up your PowerPoint slide presentation?
I mean, Logan, if you want to come drive me to like the doc, I'm not going to the emergency room, because if it's not an emergency, they charge me, and I don't think it's an emergency. Like I can still walk. I walked through Homemakers today. You know how big that place is? That place is huge.
Massive. It's massive.
It was huge.
But Trinity, do you see the slide I'm sharing?
Yes.
You want to talk about this slide?
Yeah. So I do digital art, and I do a lot of things in my free time, include reading Bucky Barnes reader insert fan fiction on Tumblr. That's my go-to. I'm a huge Bucky Barnes fan. The writers. Beautiful writing. I do have recommendations. Social media AUs are where it's at right now. Highly recommend searching on Tumblr, Bucky Barnes, social media A. Hold on. I got you all. Bucky Barnes. Added this to my presentation. I can't believe I forgot. So I read a lot on Tumblr, and that's what I do in my free time. And I've also drawn in my free time. So like the one in the top middle with like, it's very psychedelic, bright colored, that took me 13 hours. And is my most recent. And then I also do political art, and I want to get more into doing more political art. It's just like, sometimes I struggle with if it's my place to make the art. And I see that as I can make any art that I want, but should I publicize it? And that's something I struggle with, especially with like Black Lives Matter. It's like, I of course want to support the movement, but sometimes I'm like, it's not my place to make that art. So that's something I haven't fully grasped, and I think there's always like balance. And I've done a lot about Trump, just because Trump has a lot going on. And I just really enjoy art, especially I use pretty much a dot method. So I use reference photos, and it's very relaxing to the point that it's almost like it's not art, and it's very like meditative. And that's really nice for stress relief. It just takes a lot of time because I'm low-key a perfectionist sometimes.
Yep. And also, just for everybody to know, Trinity did put in the slide deck, there are speaker notes. If you're not just looking at it as a presentation, if you're looking at it in PowerPoint or Google Docs, there are speaker notes that Trinity put in. So there's a little bit of a narrative there for you to read as you're looking.
I currently use an iPad. I don't know, it's one of the newest ones, and an Apple Pencil with the app Procreate, because my fancy brother works for the iPad design team. So I got that for Christmas from him and my mom. Did not realize how much it cost. Instant regret. I felt really bad for asking for it after I found out how much it cost. So I hope he got I know he got a big discount, so that helps. But it does motivate me to use it more, because I'm like, wow, money. There are my social medias. Also, if anyone makes their Neopets account or creates a new one or logs into their old one, please let me know. My username is on one of these slides, Termites90. A lot of my friends started playing Neopets again or never stopped playing Neopets, and they recently got me back into it. And I do recommend, you do need Flash players, so Google Chrome won't be a good option once they stop providing Flash.
Here's that Neopets reference.
Oh, and there's also me cosplaying as Toph with Cabbage Man in my arms. Iconic photo. Yeah, we did not plan that. They just happened to be at this cosplay photo shoot, and I was like, perfect.
So I'm going to pop back up to the ways that people can connect with you again, knowing that everybody can look through those slides. I just knew where the Neopets reference was. So let me just back up to your, here's all your stock, the information for those who want to stalk.
Yes, and since all the ones that are underlined are linked, and then Snapchat, I don't think you can link it, but you can scan the photo on Snapchat, and that'll let you add me too.
So accommodating. This is great. And speaking of accommodating, Trinity, I've really appreciated the time that you took to not only put the supplemental stuff together, but the discussions that we had leading up to this, and then tonight. This has been great.
I know, this has been so much fun. I wasn't nervous at all until like 5 minutes before, and I was like, oh no. And I'm like, why am I oh knowing? I'm like, I don't know.
Same. That happens every month when we do the Storyteller project. It's like, it's all great. And then the last half hour, it's like, let's get this all figured out.
Here. It's been like really fun. If you all have any last minute questions, like I'm not doing anything. I'm probably gonna eat. Oh, I got corn dogs at Quick Trip today. It was really good. I'm really food oriented, okay?
A quick share. We're gonna skip over here. So we're keeping track of the time. We're at the top of the hour. So we definitely can hang around for questions as they pop up in that chat. I'm gonna let Trinity monitor that while I'm popping over to.
Rita said food is joy, queer joy is resistance. Absolutely. I totally agree with like every day is an act of resistance when you have marginalized identities. And that's why, like, especially on people that think they have to be doing something like, quote, revolutionary every day, it's like, no, like just existing is enough and your existence will always be enough. And I think I want those to be the main takeaways is like everyone's journey is different. Mine has been particularly specific just because of how I went through the school system. And I hate people that like pressure themselves like, oh, like I should have done that, or like I wish I'd done that, or like our worth is different. But it's not. Like everyone just has their own journey and the value is the same with that. And also just knowing that your best is enough, even if your best is not as good as you think it should be. Like take a bath, play some Animal Crossing, just chill and read a book, read your Bucky Barnes fan fiction, look up those social media AUs. Like it's important to have those moments of relaxation. And the fact that our self-worth is often rooted in productivity is like a huge thing to have to unlearn and manage and like come to terms with. Yeah. Especially in COVID-19. Like, listen, y'all, you don't need to be learning a new skill during this time to be valid, okay? It's okay to just exist and survive during this time. It's a very challenging time.
For sure.
Especially like if you want to reach out to me on social media, you can email me. I can give out my phone number if you want to. I just didn't want to give it out publicly because like I've had issues with that in the past. How do you deal with anxiety from unsupportive parents? Good question. I can only speak from my own experiences. It's definitely an individual case because everyone's parents react differently and respond differently, unfortunately. I would say also depends which stage. Like, do they know about your identities? Do they not know about your identities? I would say the first is educating them. They can't be supported if they don't know what they're supporting, unfortunately. And sometimes they only have one narrative, which can be a very negative narrative depending on where they're getting their information. So showing them like some good positive resources and sources. I feel like a really good way is to find someone that's like adjacent to them that knows your parents and is supportive. That way they can be like your lead-in or like your support system with them, because sometimes it can be too much to handle on a one-on-one basis. So if that is an option, I think that'd be great. The group.
The group.
Group. The parent group.
Oh, PFLAG.
PFLAG, thank you.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I feel like PFLAG would be a good resource.
My games. Right.
You gotta get here from the group. Thank you, Nikki.
I know, when you say the group, I'm like, which one? Oh boy. Okay.
My brain was like, they put together my lab grad package, and I just could not remember the name. But that's also if they're in a big enough area to have PFLAG, which is, what is the actual acronym?
They don't go by the acronym anymore because it's outdated. They're
Oh.
it's just PFLAG. They don't even.
Good to know. Okay, but they like have supportive resources for like LGBTQ parents. And you do have to be in a big enough area to have, well, when they do in-person meetings, but I'm sure they have a bunch of online resources. I definitely check them out. And at the end of the day, you have to put yourself first, whatever that means. Like whatever you're able to handle, like you have to put yourself first. And I think everyone needs to put themselves first. Like, you should be your number one priority always. And that can be really, really hard. And that's something we have to manage.
And definitely having people that you can talk to one-on-one, or finding the mentor people like Trinity, and the fact that Trinity has offered that they want to be everyone's queer cousin.
Hit or miss advice though. Gotta keep that, keep expectations moderate.
You gotta be real. It's not always gold. They can't all be winners.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah. This has been great. I really appreciate this, Trinity. I want to make sure that we give some more chance. Oh, so Logan put in the Ames chapter of PFLAG, but PFLAG has a national website that you can search through as well to find local resources. I don't know what to say, Trinity. The chat, everybody has done their job tonight as far as the audience.
So shook. Everyone's been wonderful.
Yeah, this is great. Like, the audience interaction has been fantastic. You've been fantastic. The production crew, thanks so much to this crew. We're going to start to wind this down because we're at